and they blocked off the entire theater just for us from NASA. I don't know how you do that. I guess you just call them and say we'd like to reserve the entire theater. But
it was the Astrodome. It was the Astrodome that they filmed it in, and it was brand new at the time as well. And so it was. They set up the main screen where some at one end of the big round circle dome, and the rest of it was just bleachers and balconies and places where we could all go. There were thousands of us in there. After some people made a comment that, they could have stopped the whole space program if they got rid of that dome at the time. We were all inside of it. Ooh, bad thought. Glad we didn't make it.
Because of the money. Money involved. The release, that was April 3rd, my daughter was born April 3rd, 1970, and it was April 3rd when it was released in 68. But, folks, with what we're doing, we're going to try to get to a place in space where we can talk about things that maybe you haven't thought about talking about, maybe the origin of who we are. And I've got Allied Command Org Space Race Origin. Are we one? Are we a space race that our origin is in space? And I would suggest that we are, but I can only base that on my own opinion, just like Ken and Ahmad. But I have had out-of-body experiences, and I've had near-death experiences, but then working with people, it'd be very hard to explain, and yet each of us have our own truth, our own reality, our own opinions, and our own belief as we go inside ourselves. And yet it seems to be, Ahmad, what is that makes us want to share? You said why we were doing this and bringing this, at least sharing what I know and and Ken and anyone else that wants to join us, including Tommy. I see Tommy's tuned in the last couple of minutes. But the fact is, we do let other people join us in the last hour, folks, but doing our best to get you to a point where you're open-minded and that you realize you're not alone in the universe. And what makes that so, unless you personally experienced it, except that we talk to each other? Ahmad, you're probably one of the most open-minded people I know, and yet you're an author and an artist.
Yeah, I got to keep picking my brain up off the floor.
Well, I didn't mean that open-minded. It's not like chicken soup or melted butter out your ears, but what a gross thought. Anyway, what makes us jail? What makes us, we know that we're not just our mind, we're not just our brain, and we're not just our body, but yet there's something that makes us stay in a close proximity, the glue of the neurons, I guess, the protons and electrons and the quarks. But have you any idea, because we do realize that we have vectors and points in space outside of our origin, our original soul self. But would you agree there's more to us? Maybe we all have 6 points. Maybe we do have, when you put your hands out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe that we are all part of I don't know what kind of term you want to use, but personally I use source, which, just for, if you look at our minds and what we understand about science is nothing is matter until we observe it, until a conscious outside observer observes it. So the universe has to be somewhat conscious, or it wouldn't have existed before we did, with a consciousness that is able to observe it. So, and we're part of that consciousness.
What happens to the people that can't see? They only feel, because that's happening right now to my oldest daughter's husband. He's lost sight, and he's in a coma right now, but they don't want to pull the plug on him for at least 10 more days.
They're disconnected.
But where is he? He's disconnected.
He's disconnected.
He's not
connected with it.
So
Ken just joined me back on Skype. I'm not sure what happened there.
All right. Well, let me look.
Did he
Ken,
fall
you're
off
still
on the phone?
No, Ken, you're still here.
Guys. Yeah, I'm still there.
Yeah.
I just get back to the full screen, and that's where I see you, Ahmed. You went live.
Well, NASA's been an important part.
The Skype and the phone.
Now, NASA started. I guess he sees you on Skype. I don't know if you're synced or not. But NASA started out a long, long time ago, and everybody's pro and con on if they've ever worked at NASA or been cleared by NASA. I've had my paperwork done by NASA that started in 67, 68. And NASA is important to me because that was where I got most of my understanding that we're not alone in the universe, but I expected much more in 68. And I don't know where we went wrong on a timeline, but that's what we say in our ACE Folklife, our ACE Metaphysical Institute, and scanning integration of how we get along in space and what we're putting up in space with satellites, how we're going to learn to communicate with engineers, scientists, and the everyday Joe on the street, that if you just turn on the channel watching people in space, it's not that exciting, Ahmad. You know what I'm saying? And so we've got to learn how to integrate a roadmap for ourselves. Of
That's
if
really
we can't see
any occupation.
So
You know what I mean?
man.
I said that's true with any occupation. I mean, if you watch a truck driver, it's only for a few minutes you're fascinated, and the rest of the time is boring. It's the same thing with a spaceman.
That's what we used to say. That's what we used to say about our Apollo program. Is it's made up of many hours and hours of nothing but hour and hours, and broken by a few moments of absolute terror. So, you know, that's kind of the way the whole program goes. It takes a lot of time to get from point A to point B, and that's just the way you deal with it that makes a difference.
What is the other astronaut? His last name is Story. I've talked to him on the phone here in Florida and out at AMI.
Story Musgrave?
Yeah, that's it, Story Musgrave. Yeah, he's been on TV quite a lot.
Actually, Story Musgrove. But anyway, yeah, he was about 6 foot. At first, they was afraid that he was too tall to be able to fit inside of the spacecraft that was going to get him up to Skylab. And he and two other guys spent a couple of weeks inside of a Skylab simulator, so to speak, inside the vacuum chamber at Johnson Space Center to test out and prove things they do. And then later he became one of the actual mission astronauts that went to our Skylab space station. Our first space station was called Skylab. So
he's actually a doctor,
Yep.
Story Musgrave. He spells it Grave, MD, born August 19th, 1935. Story Musgrave. Franklin Story Musgrave, MD, an American physician, retired NASA astronaut, public speaker, and consultant to both Disney's Imagineering Group and Applied Minds in California. Now, Tommy interviewed him, but let me just let him talk. Tommy, what did you learn about Story Musgrave when you got him on your show? Do you remember Story?
Yeah, well, I had him on, and he told me incredible stories, but he never said anything about aliens. But what he did say, he said that they created the space program for him. He said he was.
Well, he went to University of Houston, Clear Lake. That's where he lived. So that's where he went to. He got his education right there at NASA in the Clear Lake area. But go ahead.
No, but he said they created it for him. He was on the first 6 shuttles, and he claimed that he saw things in space, but he wouldn't say anything about anything on the ground. And he said no astronaut ever came to him with any proof of anything. I called him months later because I had a friend that had blood from an alien and we wanted to get it tested. And I said, we just shot a couple of really cool pictures. And he goes, oh, I can't deal with that. And he hung up. I guess he's still on collecting money from the government. Seriously.
He talked to me for hours. We've talked at least twice for an hour long, but he has back in the day when he was in Florida, I was in Kentucky, he had a 12-year-old daughter, but he'd fly every weekend. He'd fly south from Florida over here over to Ames, but now he's retired. But he's been on television a lot lately. He's a good speaker, He's a really good speaker. Y'all look him up. Story Musgrave, American physician, astronaut. So did you meet him, Ken? You met Story Musgrave?
Oh yeah, I worked with him a whole lot because one of the
Really?
things that they did. Oh yeah, when they took Skylab, they went up to our Skylab space station, and I was involved with the group that took the command module, the leftover command module. Because see, we only used up to mission 17 or 16, 17, because we had 18, 19, and 20 command modules and lunar modules in the factories that we weren't going to use. So it was easy for us to use one of the command modules and take three astronauts up to Skylab, and then later on over to our regular space station that came up after that. But yes, I did get to work with him at the Johnson Space Center and give him all the information he needed on the Grumman lunar module, because they were going to fly in it, put they got up to the space station along with a lunar module. Then it was attached to Skylab. They would be able to go from Skylab into the lunar module, back away from Skylab, and we had mounted a telescope, a good sized telescope, to the descent stage of the lunar module limb, and they could back away from the space station, and it would be a separate telescope and everything. That was the plan. And as far as I know, from after being gone from the space station, I don't think that ever got to take place, but it was capable. We definitely did all the testing and the capabilities of our equipment to make it turn into the command module of the lunar module, I should say, that it was quite capable of doing maneuvers that was needed to point the telescope at the various parts of constellations that they wanted. And let me add in here right now that on my let's see, my wife actually found this, and it was the 8th annual surviving Apollo astronauts got together for the 50th anniversary of the moon landing, and Buzz Aldrin's outfit. Interesting, I'm looking at Buzz Aldrin, he's got white and red stripes up and down the socks in his boots, and then blue up and down, so I guess it's red, white, and blue. He's being patriotic. But there's a picture of those that are surviving right there on my Facebook, and you get to, I guess, what do they call me here? Let me click on this thing. There I go. I'll probably lose everybody doing this thing. Oh, well. TJ, you know how to tell me to go to my...
Did you put it on your Facebook?
Yeah.
Go to your Facebook and look at it? All right.
Yeah, that's all you got to do.
I'm going to go on my laptop. Facebook.com/ and it is it Mars One Astronaut, or is it Ken Johnston? How do I get there, Ken?
I think it's Ken Johnston.
Listening.
I don't call myself very often, so let me back down here a little bit. There we are. Yeah.
Let's see. Well, we need to know because you're a public figure, so we can do that. I've got TJ Mars ET Radio. I see that. Steve Colburn. Let's see. Let me put Ken R. Is it Ken R. Johnston?
Yes.
Ken R. Johnston. Let me try Ken R. Johnston and see if it'll pull it up. Nope, that Ken R. Johnston has a puppy dog. That's not you.
No.
Ahmad, how do we pull him up? Mars One Astronaut? Oh, look for Ken. Ken, you got a picture up there of you with the astronauts?
No, this is just a picture of all of the Apollo astronauts in tuxedos to be photographed. They're all sitting on stools and different things together. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them that are still alive from the Apollo era, and they're all sitting together there. And of course, Buzz Aldrin, he is in the totally opposite suit of a regular tuxedo. The gentleman behind him has a tuxedo on, but he's got green bordered stripes all the way around the coat and around the sleeves and around the tail of the coat. So a little bit, a little hee stuff going on there with him. I don't know which one that is, because these guys have changed in a lot in the last 36 years or 50 years actually it was, wasn't it? So I haven't been in contact. Oh, and when I've been in contact with since then was Buzz Aldrin and and he died on us too. Apollo 17 astronaut, the lunar module pilot, and Jim Irwin. Astronaut Jim Irwin, and he's probably spent nearly almost 1,000 hours with me inside the lunar module in the vacuum chambers, because we did over 3,000 hours, at least I did, as a test pilot inside the lunar module in the vacuum chambers. So Buzz has the right to wear the outfit that he's wearing there, but he's got his red, white, and blue collar, Medal of Honor around his neck, hanging there. So that's kind of cool. Have you been able to get into my website?